I really think we should have voted Nic and Olandria off instead of Clarke and Taylor. It only made sense. Hey y'all, welcome back to the channel. You already know what time it is. She Cares Chic TV. And yes, we are back with a review and reaction of Love Island USA Season 7, episodes 30 through 32. Okay, so we're gonna round this up. But y'all, I am so mad, as everybody already knows right now, I am so mad that Clarke and Taylor went home. Why? Because it didn't make sense. Do y'all think it made sense? This is not Potential Island. This is not Friendship Island. This is Love Island. This is where you find the person you want to be with. In my mind, I'm so confused on why America voted Clarke and Taylor off. Were they not the better option? As far as the finale goes, I think it only made sense to have Ace, Nic, and Taylor in the final 3. Why do we still have Pepe there? But you know what? If Nic went home, I still would have been a little bit upset. But in reality, when we look at it, maybe Pepe and Iris was the better choice. I just feel like with Taylor, he was growing something so beautifully with Clarke. And I get it. I know everybody's like, well, Clarke didn't show personality. She was a little quiet. It's understandable. I think when it comes down to it, Clarke did not have the group of girls she originally went in there with. She's trying to find new connections with the OG girls that are in the villa. And I just feel like overall, they really did build something that made sense. You know, when they was talking about their wedding and everybody was going to have cowboy hats on, I thought that was just going to be adorable. But America hated them. And unfortunately, when we did start to hear about the wedding plans and the big reveal of being closed off, it was too late. America had already voted. I just feel like Taylor had the bad end of what happened between him and Olandria. Like, yes, maybe Taylor should have been a little bit more upfront with Olandria. But why are we not crucifying Nic for the same thing? Not for nothing did Nic tell Sierra he didn't want to be with her, even though he knew he didn't want things closed off. I feel like we definitely see a different side of Nic with Olandria for sure. Maybe Sierra was just a little bit too much for him. Maybe Sierra had too many emotions all at once, because not for nothing Olandria shows no emotion. So I really don't even know what we're watching. And I find it so funny that even when they have their conversations, Olandria is doubling back to her friends to say, hey, does this look real? Why are you asking your friends if this looks real, if it's not forced? I just think you should go about dating Nic the way you want to date him and not question what other people feel about you, because right now it's given acting. I definitely feel like when it came to Taylor, there was just a lot of unresolved issues within the villa that maybe some people didn't want to address. And I would say even he didn't want to address. Like, I did find it funny that he was giving Nic advice on how to make Olandria pancakes when it's like, you're not even with the girl no more, but she's living rent free in your head. So was it fair that Taylor actually went home? No, I don't think it was fair. I think at least they could have had another shot at showing America why their connection was strong. And if we waited at least one more episode, we would have seen why Taylor and Clarke's relationship was so strong. I think it was so cute when Taylor had all the boys spell out Clarke's name to ask her to be exclusive. And you know what? I do hope that they stay together. I do hope they're one of the 3 couples that are still together when the reunion comes about, because guess what? The reunion is going to be probably right around the corner. And I do hope that eventually Olandria gets that chip off her shoulder, because when Taylor was asking Clarke to be exclusive, Olandria was standing dead in the middle of the frame watching Clarke and Taylor have their moment. And I just felt like either producers put her there or she put herself there. I don't think it made sense for her to be standing there, because I felt like she was taken away from their moment. And in reality, I do feel like she still has feelings for Taylor. When it comes down to it, there was a conversation that Olandria had with Nic, and the conversation consisted of why Olandria felt like Taylor and her would not work out outside of the villa. She explains that Taylor's in vet school. He doesn't have time for this, that, and the third. In my mind, you're downplaying him being in school. Also, you wasn't complaining about this before. So when y'all was having all these conversations and he told you he was in vet school, when or where did you ever mention that he would not have time for you? Literally, I feel like if a man wants to, he will. Same with females. If Taylor wanted to make time for Olandria, and let's say Clarke wasn't in the picture, I believe Taylor would have made time for Olandria. I just feel like Olandria is trying to come up with all these excuses of why she fell for someone who did not want her, because in reality, that's what happened. We get they had a great great connection in some shape or form, but we're only the ones on the outside looking in. Now, when she's talking to Nic, I can definitely say, once again, I feel like she's not showing much emotion. So I feel like with Nic, he doesn't have a lot to go off of other than the fact that they have great conversations. I would definitely say when they had their conversation about college football and families and things like that, I thought this is actually a genuine conversation between the two. But is it more of a friend conversation? Because I feel like, yes, they were friends, but at the same time, the guys are more friends than the girls. So maybe there was conversations that the guys didn't have with the girls. So it was ultimately the opportunity for Nic and Olandria to have these conversations. Now, for me, once again, this is not Friendship Island. I get everybody has this theory in their head about Nic Olandria, Nic at Night, whatever you want to call it. But let's be honest. Yes, he might be a different person being that Sarah's not there, but I don't think he is the best version of himself or the best version for her. I don't know. Now, I have nothing against interracial dating. So for it. But I still just look at how they interact with each other, and it's very giggly, it's very flirtatious, and I've seen in some posts that it might be more of a fetish that he has towards Olandria and not really of an interest towards Olandria. So in my mind, I'm really just trying to figure out which way to go with them. And in reality, I don't know which way to go with them. I just feel like they're more friends than actually a romantic type of relationship. And if they do last outside of the villa, you know what? They're going to last for the PR. And you know what? PR only lasts about a year. So I give them about a year and a half. And you know what? It is what it is. But now we have to think about Sierra and Olandria on the outside world. Or during the reunion, because that's gonna be juicy. Now, I also think who his friends in America got wrong? Pepe and Iris. Like I said, I would have preferred Pepe and Iris going home. Why? Because I felt like Pepe was so gun-ho on Hannah. Like, I feel like they had a really strong connection. He was so sad when she left. And why didn't Pepe look at Iris before? That's a big question for me. I don't understand why he overlooked her. She was always in the villa. But then I'm like, maybe Iris never went after Pepe because Hannah was so into Pepe and it left no room for Pepe to explore. I do like the way that Pepe talks about Iris. I feel like he talks about how cool of a girl she is. She's really smart. And I think it gives him a lot more energy when it comes down to the things that he wants in a partner. I think they worked really well when they had the fake babies. She was chilling. He had the babies. All the girls were chilling, to be honest. But I do think that their friendship has proceeded into a little bit more of a romance. Now, do I think they have the strongest connection in the villa? I wouldn't say that per se, because yes, they do have individuals on the outside world that when that they get to the outside world, these are the things that they have to think about. And I'm just like, are they prepared to face these people on the outside world? Is Pepe really prepared to leave Hannah alone? I don't know, because not for nothing, I feel like Hannah's not even chasing Charlie. They're in LA, and I don't see Hannah actually dating Charlie. I feel like Hannah has moved past Charlie and is waiting for Pepe to get out of the villa. So yes, I do think they seem like they can go far, but at the same time, I do feel like they're more of a stronger friend couple versus a romantic couple. Hence why I don't think they are, our strongest connection in the villa. Now, when it comes down to it and we have our final three couples, yes, we're probably going to have Chris and Huda as being one of them. I definitely feel like Huda has her guard up when it comes to Chris. Not for nothing. Chris actually likes Huda. Okay, I take it back. I feel like now Chris actually likes Huda. Before, I felt like it was more of a physical connection than anything. I like the fact that we do get to see this side of Chris and Huda when it comes to the things that they worry about. I feel like Chris has no problem being vulnerable with Huda and telling him, his thoughts when it comes to his career outside of the villa. But at the same time, though, I have not heard Chris talk to Huda about where they will stand outside the villa. Again, yes, they'll make it to the final. Do I think they're the strongest connection? No, I do not. Why? Because of how Huda treats Chris. Now, it has been brought to our attention that Huda does not kiss Chris outside of the challenges. For us, we would think, why not? Because she's already had sex with this man. For him, he's thinking the same thing. And in reality, after Chris speaks with Amaya, basically telling her all this, Amaya decides to go speak with Huda. And And Huda tells Amaya, when I had this interaction with Jeremiah, everybody in the villa was upset with me and why you're so closed off. But here's the thing, Huda. We are ways into this season, and not for nothing, we would expect you to start thinking about being closed off with Chris. We would expect you to start showing more PDA because you have been in the villa so long. When you was with Jeremiah, it was just so early. We didn't understand, was this a real connection or was it just a physical connection? Because in reality, when we got Jeremiah up out of there, you was actually able to explore other people. But it's like you let your guard up and down, and for anybody that's dating you, it can be confusing. Now, I do understand from Huda's perspective, there are certain things that Chris might not show her, but I still can't get the idea that she had sex with him out my head. You don't want to kiss him, but you were intimate with him. Make it make sense. And I love the fact that Chris has no issue telling Huda how he feels. You know, there are instances where Huda is just being overbearing and demanding and controlling, and he's like, yo, just be quiet, let me do it. He had to remind her that the fake baby they had was not real because she was having PTSD, which is understandable. You probably missed your daughter, you know, thinking back when you was doing a lot of things by yourself at this young age, but at the same time, you're potentially looking for a husband who is going to be there for you, who's going to be there with your kid. At the same time, you have to feel safe in the presence of this man. And if you don't feel safe, why are you continuing this relationship with him? Yes, it's all fun and games and y'all are on a show, but I think it has to come down to a point where she needs to be real with him and tell him, you know what, these are the things that I'm going through and this is why. Because I'm also confused, because one minute you want him to make sure he's including you in things and he's doing the small things for you, whether it's put a yoga mat away or asking you how you feel about certain things or challenges, versus you not giving him the type of affection that he needs as a man. And I think that's important too. We cannot get lost in the fact that men are humans, men have emotions, and us as women have to be able to see that and be able to cater to that. You cannot just think this is one-sided. This is not just about you, Huda, and he wants that affection, and not for nothing, she had every opportunity to do that. So in the last elimination, they were safe. Huda and Chris gets to sit down, and Huda and Chris look at each other, and that was the perfect moment for them to kiss. Huda looks at Chris, and she giggles and smiles, and there was nothing. And he's just like, yo, either you're gonna kiss me or you're not. Like, I just think he's done enough where he's asked her for a kiss and he's, you know, leaning in for that affection, and she's not reciprocating that energy. So in my mind, if it was time for them to go home, let them go home. I don't know why, you know, there's this big cult for Huda fans, because in reality, maybe she has to take time for herself to figure out what she really wants. I personally think that she might still like Jeremiah, and I do think she still likes Jeremiah. Yes, she may have intercourse with Chris, but I think that intercourse was definitely different than the intercourse she had with Jeremiah. Just like they say with guys, you know, guys can go and have sex with a lot of women and it doesn't matter, and then there's that one woman he really loves. It's the same thing for females, and not for nothing, the way Huda gets down, she know how to play her cards right. So I definitely feel like she's like, yo, yeah, we had sex, but it is what it is. Like, I was horny. Okay. So do I want to see Huda and Chris in the finale? Not really. If they make it there, hey, they make it there. But I do want to see a little bit more affection, either from Huda, or I want her to talk more and allow Chris to talk more, because she does not let this man speak at all. And I thought Amaya was bad. No, Huda is bad, because there are times where Chris is really soft and gentle with Huda and explaining the emotions that he's going through, but at the same time, Huda's not listening. It's like Huda just feels like, this is how I feel, and this is what I want to think. And in that moment she had with Chris, she got up and she walked away. But I just think maybe it might be her time to go home. Maybe it's time for her to kind of think about the things that she has been going through, or how she has grown as a woman being on the show. Because maybe Huda's reward was growing more as a woman and as a mother by being on the show and being able to identify the right partners for her and her child. That's just what I'm going to say. And my final couple, Amaya and Bryan. So I love the fact that Amaya had these conversations with Chris person, Huda. I feel like she was very unbiased to both of them. You know, she let Chris kind of explain himself, but also trying to give him a little bit of insight on who Huda is as a person, but also as her friend. I like the fact that a lot of people think Amaya doesn't know what she's talking about, or, you know, she doesn't know how to conduct herself. But if you actually listen to Amaya, I personally think that she's a really good friend. I think that she actually cares about these relationships between all of the individuals in the villa. I think it was a really good conversation that Amaya had with Huda, because she was able to pull out why Huda was blocking the intimacy that she could have with Chris. She was asking her all the right questions, and she was really just getting down to the root of the problem. Maybe that's the nurse in her, or maybe that's just her as a person. But I personally feel like there has been a different side of Amaya that we've been able to see slowly, especially because she's so much calmer now. Like, a lot of people think it's fake between Amaya and Bryan. Oh well. You think it's fake? You think it's fake. Do I think it's fake? No, I don't think it's fake. I feel like Bryan is very gentle. If you see the way Bryan holds Amaya, the way Bryan speaks to Amaya, he's gentle with her. It's not these ultimatums he's giving with her. He actually likes her personality. So again, like, I feel like the cons that everyone sees that Amaya has, it's actually pros and things that Bryan actually likes about Amaya. So we don't see Bryan complain as much as we would have seen with Zach or Austin. Hence why we had this idea about Amaya, because everybody was complaining. Because of the fact now we don't see any complaining about Amaya, everybody wants to say that Bryan doesn't like Amaya. Where do y'all see that Bryan does not like Amaya? The fact that this man walked out in just his drawers for this girl, you're telling me he don't like her? But I will say is, Amaya, slow down. Let this man speak. Because oftentimes we only see Amaya talking and going. She did it with Chelley. She did it with Ace. She did it with Zach. She did it with Austin. Like, she is like a super bunny, okay? But at the same time, I think there are conversations that Amaya and Bryan are having that the production is just not allowing us to see. When they got back to the villa, I love how they both talked about their interaction as a journey. Now, if any other man called it a journey, now if y'all notice, no man has called their intercourse a journey. And they both said the same thing. Now, maybe it was a coincidence, maybe it was planned, but the fact that he speaks really beautifully of her, it speaks a lot about the respect that he has for her. Now, maybe respect and love don't go hand in hand, because you could respect someone and not love them, but I personally think he's actually falling for her. Bryan actually sits and talks to Amaya about their future outside of the villa. He talks about the fact that he's from Boston and it's just a short drive to go to New York. He's always in New York. I feel like he's telling Amaya he's willing to make things work, and I'm just excited to see the evolution of their relationship. I think they were really great parents. I thought it was so cute how Amaya was talking to the baby, saying, you know what, your mommy cries too, she's a cry. Like, I just think there's so many great qualities about Amaya that America just doesn't want to see, because they actually are a good connection. And not for nothing, I feel like there is a lot of women that may not have found their partner as quick as a lot of other females. Not for nothing, Amaya had to go through like 3 people to find the person she wanted to be with. And I generally feel like this connection was the best connection for Amaya. If you notice, there are other people like Austin who was complaining about Amaya and Chelley, but you don't see Ace constantly complaining about Chelley. Now, granted, there's some things Chelley can work on, okay? Now, she ain't perfect, because I do feel like, and I'm just going back to Chelley real quick, I do feel like there are some things that Chelley does that has or could sabotage certain votes, but at the same time, this is their story. And I think at the end of the day, they are gonna last. I feel like the more that Ace is being vulnerable with Chelley, she's allowing herself to be a little bit more softer and actually allowing someone to love her. So I'm not gonna put too much pressure on Chelley, because I feel like, yeah, she's taking the time and she's taking the steps to identify who's a person that's going to appreciate her. And that's what I feel like with Amaya. So yeah, I do feel like there are conversations we don't see. I definitely feel like they're going to make it to the end, and at the end of the day, whoever doesn't agree with that, oh well, because I feel like either Ace and Chelley or Bryan and Amaya is going to win this for sure. All right, you all, it's time to give out the awards, and you know what? the awards were really hard this time, but I'm going to give MVP to Taylor. Now, yes, Taylor is no longer with us, but I want to give MVP to Taylor. Why? Because he had the most creative, closed off, exclusive proposal ever. I think it was really nice that he got everybody involved. I love the date that he planned for Clarke, and at the same time, yes, it was a distraction to the fact that Sierra was getting kicked out at the same time all of this was going on, but I feel like Taylor has been the only one to really talk about his feelings, other than Ace, but his feelings of how he feels when he's with Clarke and around Clarke, and want to convert her to a cowgirl and want to have a wedding and her agreeing. Like, I think that their relationship was amazing to see and evolve. I think we were also able to see a different side of Taylor that we did not get to see. And yes, there are instances where they're like, Taylor's a little boy, X, Y, and Z. But I feel like he was able to really walk into his manhood with Clarke. Everybody else can disagree, but I feel like with Olandria, she kind of stunt him from doing that. Yes, everybody's like, oh, Nic got to go with Olandria. Okay, that's Nic. But the relationship that she had with Taylor, I feel like he was just shrinking himself more and more and more because you had someone who literally did not probably have real interest in what he had going on, as we can see, because she clearly thought vet school is a waste of time for him. And we got to see something evolve between Taylor and Clarke, and unfortunately they went home, and I'm so sad, but I'm giving Taylor MVP. And while we're on MVP, because I would have did vote him out, we're going to do Best Dress. So with Best Dress, I want to give this award to Clarke because I loved her two-piece ivory outfit. I did see the outfit is from Nordstrom. I did not get to click it to see if it was still in stock, but I thought it was cute. I feel like Clarke has amazing makeup. It's very soft every time she comes on camera. Her hair is laid. I think her hair actually got better throughout the rest of these episodes because, it was sitting up high, but who knows? She probably just rolled off the plane and got right into the villa. But I think she is a beautiful girl. She wears her outfits well. Now, I did not like that her booty cheeks were hanging out when Taylor asked her to be exclusive. But I will definitely say she is just so cute. Like, I don't know. I wanted to see more of Clarke. Unfortunately, we weren't able to see more of her. But I do hope to see more of who she is outside of the villa. The makeup brands are lining up down the street for her. I already know it. And if whatever hair brand that is, I'm going to need that hair because that hair was everything. I need to know the secret, how she kept it laid, what products, everything. But yes, I want to give Clarke Best Dress. What about? Since we're coming down to couples now and it's no longer just voting out individuals, I do want to vote out Pepe and Iris. Now, if it's not Pepe and Iris, it's going to be Nic and Olandria. Now, y'all might hate me. I don't care. But I would prefer Nic and Olandria to go home. I would prefer them to accept the fact that they are friends. And yes, sometimes you can have a friend that brings better out of you, and that's okay. That does not mean y'all need to be together, because at the end of the day, if Nic and Olandria goes further, I do fear that it's going to ruin the relationship between Olandria and Sierra, and it's going to ruin the dynamic between all of the girls that ended up or thought they were going to end up in the finale at the end. Again, I just think they're more friends than anything. Now, if it's Pepe and Iris, I just feel like Pepe secretly is just doing this so he can, win and ultimately probably end up with Hannah down the line, because Iris and Hannah aren't really friends. So I can see why Iris and Pepe will go to the end, but I personally just feel like, again, if they go home, they go home, but I would not mind Nic and Olandria actually going home. Yeah. All right, you all, it's tweet time, and this is when we look at some of the tweets from the previous episodes. So from Military Wife Survivor, Pepe actually needs to be studied in the lab because he has now had 2 women who were practically in love with another man forgetting about them within 24 hours. He had Hannah and Iris, okay? Hannah was head over heels for Charlie, crying. You would thought Hannah was going to go home with Charlie, but you know what? I always said Hannah was spontaneous, okay? I felt like Hannah was down for anything that she can get down with. So I was not surprised that Hannah forgot about Charlie that fast. Now, Iris, too. not for nothing, Iris just got with TJ. And I think she only got with TJ because at the end of the day, she had to be safe. She had to pick somebody. Yes, Pepe was in it with Grayson, so maybe she didn't go after TJ. But at the end of the day, they are head over heels over Pepe. It could be the basketball. It could be the tattoos. It could be the Espanol. I don't know. But I do know is, who, Charlie, TJ, wait, what? Yeah. He got him like that. From Robin D. Marley. Chris expressed himself very calmly to Huda and she resorted to cut him off and gaslight him throughout the entire conversation. I thought the streets said she was a changed woman. Is she really a changed woman? I don't think Huda is changed. I think Huda still gets agitated very easily when it comes to things if they don't go her way. I feel like she is just a woman that knows what she wants, and a lot of people just say she's just dominant and that's just it. But yes, I did not like the fact that she was cutting off Chris. Chris genuinely wanted to express himself, and as much as I thought Chris was just after a physical connection, you can kind of see the sincerity in Chris when he talks to Huda. But I don't feel like Huda's reciprocating that respect that Chris gives to her. Maybe because there are times that Chris forgets about her, and I don't understand how when y'all had sex. But really, I think in reality, Huda may just not trust Chris. And either way, if she trusts him not, it does not excuse the fact she kept cutting this man off. She did not allow him to speak or express himself. And yes, she is ruining it for herself. She already said it. And I think if she does not catch it quick, she's going to be voted off next. From Chi Chi. The narrator saying that Chris and Pepe's most viewed basketball game is on Love Island is so sick. Chi. I totally agree because not for nothing, they were getting them buckets. I didn't expect Pepe to be that good. I didn't expect Tilla to be that good. But I also thought Chris was not good. Okay, yes, you could be tall, but that does not mean you're good at basketball. That's all I'm going to say. So I thought it was just funny to see them actually play. And I think it was dope that they added that activity in for the boys because ideally, like, you see a lot of like the dates that these couples would go on, but oftentimes you don't get to see the actual relationships between each of the friend groups. So I thought it was dope that we got to see them play basketball. I just did not expect Pepe to actually be that good. Or Chris. From her persona, I know Till and I trying to tell Nic how to treat Olandria. Yeah, like I said, you don't have to tell Nic. Do the little things, those are the things she pay attention to. You know, crispy edges on the pancake. You don't have to do that. I think just nodding and agreeing and saying yes is all Taylor had to say. I think maybe Taylor just felt bad of how things ended with Olandria, so he's just trying to make up for it, especially when talking to Nic. So maybe if Nic talks to Olandria, he's like, you know what, Olandria, Taylor really speaks highly of you. He gave me tips on how to treat you, but I don't think Olandria's actually will appreciate that. I think Taylor should have just ignored it, and I think Taylor just should have minded his business and kept it pushing. Like, you don't need to give nobody advice because the only advice you need to take was theirs in telling that girl how you felt, and you didn't do that, and that's why you got kicked off. And unfortunately, we didn't want you to get kicked off, but you got yourself kicked off just because you didn't stand up to that girl. So either way, mind your business. The business that pays you, and it's not her, it's Clarke. So just leave her alone, please. All right, you all, it's time for the predictions, and I'm just going to get right into it. I think the final three couples is going to be Ace and Chelley. We're going to have Amaya and Bryan, and possibly Huda and Chris. I don't think Nic and Olandria will make it. Now, again, America is so gun-ho on Nic and Olandria that they actually might win. And who knows if the family's going to come tonight or tomorrow night. But I do feel like maybe the families might help with the dynamic of what this relationship looks like for Nic and Olandria. If Pepe and Iris do stay, which I think is really slim to none, I would be very surprised. I do hope that Huda actually addresses her emotions with Chris and actually apologizes to him, one, and just really explain to him why she is the way she is. I don't think she has gone in depth enough in explaining who she is as a woman. And, you know, again, a lot of people say you were okay with clapping your cheeks in front of this man's face, but you're not okay with kissing him. So we have to figure out what mental logic you thought made sense, because to me, none of it makes sense. I don't even see how you don't kiss this man when he is doing everything to show you he appreciates you and he actually wants to be with you. For the most part, because we don't even know what he's going to do outside the villa. And I'm still still waiting for this grand gesture from Ace, and I want to see Ace ask Chelley to be exclusive. Now, I don't think Ace has asked Chelley to be exclusive yet because he is afraid. I feel like he is trying to get over the fact that Chelley was going so hard after Chris. Like, it wasn't that long ago that Chelley was literally like about to pick Chris over Ace. So I do think Ace is just waiting for the perfect time, but I want to see it. I want to see the day. I want to know what he has up his sleeve because not for nothing, Ace has set the bar when it comes to dating. Nobody has done anything as extravagant when it comes to being in a villa and have limited resources as Ace, okay? And Chelley, because the s'mores was a hit. I love the fact that Chelley did s'mores with Ace. He said it brought him back to a childhood memory. He feels like home with Chelley, and I do want to see them go the long run. I really, really do. So listen, you all already know what to do. Hit that like button, comment, let me know what you think about the episode, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you all later. Bye.